Trump administration will never pressure Israel into a two-state solution or any other solution that is against the wishes of the Israeli people.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is David Friedman, and David Friedman is the choice of Donald Trump to be the U.S. ambassador to the state of Israel. And joining me now, Kenneth S. Abramowitz, general partner and co-founder of NGN Capital and founder of SaveTheWest.com. Good to see you again, sir. Okay, so the left is going nuts. Let's put up this New York Times headline when I got my alert yesterday on my phone. Breaking news. For his envoy to Israel, Donald Trump has chosen a supporter of West Bank settlements who has insulted left-leaning American Jews. Wow, if that doesn't tell a story as opposed to report a story. So what's your take on David Friedman? I know you know him.
Yes, he's a great choice. And I'm very proud of Mr. Trump for nominating him, and I'm very proud of David for getting the job. He'll be a great representative of the U.S. government. And
he says in that bite there, you know, what the United States will never let happen, what Trump will never let happen. Do you believe that the embassy, first of all, will be moved? Is this reinforced in your mind that Trump will do this based on this hardline pick?
Well, Mr. Trump said that, and I think when Mr. Trump says something, he tries to do it. So I would expect him to do it, and he should do it. By the way, Jews have been living in Jerusalem for 3,000 years.
Yes,
Americans have been living in America for about 400 years. So Jews have more rights to be in Jerusalem than Americans have to be in America. I just thought you might want to know that.
And the settlements, as he talks about, he does not view them, Mr. Friedman does not as an impediment to peace, and he says the settlements, in his view, should continue. Do you assume that Trump will back off on making settlements an issue?
Yes, yes, I assume so. And by the way, from the Palestinian Authority point of view, every city in Israel is a settlement.
Yes.
And they don't distinguish between settlements and Judea.
Well, they'll never recognize, they haven't recognized Israel.
Right, they don't recognize Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state. So they don't accept the right of Jews to live anywhere in Israel, whether you call it Israel or Judea and Samaria or the West Bank.
Which is what Netanyahu alluded to with Leslie Stahl on 60 Minutes. I played it in depth earlier in the week. He said, just let them recognize us for God's sake, you know, and but that seems to be too much. All right, last time you were on, you talked about your 10-point plan and your 10-point front attack to destroy the United States that you put together, that you talk about. You give speeches, you approach politicians, you make your point known, and you make it known well and in concise fashion. So let's put something up. Let's go to the first one. I want to put it on the screen as we talk. Your first 10 of the 10-front attack to destroy the United States is nuclear attack from Iranian ICBMs or offshore Atlantic EPMs. No missile defense to protect from Iranian nuclear attack from these in the south and east. This is very frightening. Talk about what this means.
Yeah, I've identified 10 key fronts that the new government must address. And we're fighting on all these 10 fronts, and actually we're losing on all of these 10 fronts. And just as an individual citizen, I'm worried. But the number one challenge facing America is Iranian nukes and ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. According to the Iranian agreement, which by the way they never signed, but according to the Iranian agreement, they have the right to produce ICBMs and nukes over a 10-15 year period of time, because it's not a treaty, the agreement expires. And so right now they're doing the research on the nukes, they're doing the research on the ICBMs, and if they don't cheat, in 10 or 15 years, they'll get it.
And the EMP could take out our grid.
Yes. Military people tell me 1 or 2 nuclear explosions high above Chicago will shoot off enough electromagnetic pulse, or EMP, to destroy our electric grid.
All right, you talk about in number 2, the UN, the EU, the ICJ, NGO, intellectual and legal terrorism. We know what physical terrorism is. What's intellectual and legal terrorism?
Yes, Americans understand physical terrorism. They do not understand intellectual terrorism. Intellectual terrorism or cultural terrorism is when someone has a false narrative to undermine your culture, our way of life. Our Constitution, our Bill of Rights, for example, are the rules by which we abide. In various non-state NGOs, non-government organizations, or the UN, International Court of Justice, don't abide by our Constitution, Bill of Rights. So therefore I call them intellectual enemies of America.
Interesting. I want to skip to number 6 because I could see we're not going to have time in this interview to hit all 10. The Muslim Brotherhood front organizations allowed to fund false narrative with intellectual war, which is what you spoke of, and I can't think of a better example than the Muslim Brotherhood.
Right. The Muslim Brotherhood is in jail in Egypt. They should be in jail in America. They don't believe in the Constitution Bill of Rights, and they try to undermine our Constitution Bill of Rights and our way of life. So I call this intellectual terror, but they're legal, and they can hand out contributions to politicians, and therefore they can influence the political scene, even though they're against the existence of America as we now know it.
A country we can't forget about, and you don't forget about, this is number 9 on your list, North Korea expanding their nuclear weapon capacity and intercontinental ballistic missiles to reach the U.S. There have been projections that they could reach a part of Seattle, if not already, very, very soon. How do we deal with a madman in North Korea?
Yes, North Korea and Iran are working together jointly on the nuclear and ICBM program. So I look at North Korea as an extension of Iran. They're in the Iran orbit. And so when they work on nukes and ICBMs, they have our name written on them.
Yep.
And so this is an existential risk to America, and America has done nothing about it for 10 years, and it's sad.
And boy, we got 30 seconds of you on target. Chinese, Russian, North Korean, and Iranian cyber warfare.
Right. Cyber is another way of fighting. It's also a way of destroying America, destroying our grid, or undermining companies, governments, stealing information. And there's a cyber battle going on too.
Great to see you, sir.
Yeah, great to
Come
see
back.
you.
We'll speak to you again.